Okay. Why do we have such a low turnaround? So should we wait or should we can go ahead with the class, or we can wait, or we can cancel? We have three options. Just let me know whatever works for you, because let me check with Abhishek as well. Anyways, let me quickly revise. In the meantime, if people join, well and good. Otherwise, we can then discuss on what to do next. All right, we were completing on our React. Pretty much we have completed. We are with just React states, hooks, and routes, right? Route we are going to complete, state we are going to complete, and hooks we are going to complete. Post that our React will be completed, and then we'll move on making projects on React, right? For that, coding in React app, whatever we've discussed in theory, we have done in the coding in the React application, and we have successfully done that yesterday. So what I will be doing, you'll be doing on the VS Code or whatever editor you are using, and you will be directly coding in the React app. Now, last class after coding in the React tab, we moved to the React events. So what are React events? Just like HTML DOM events, you have React events. Whatever HTML DOM events means something you do, a user does something, it is generated as an event, right? It can be hover, it can be click, it can be change, it can be mouse over, etc., etc., right? So React also has something events which is based upon user generated events. What are those? These are click, change, mouse over, etc. When you have to add the events, you have to remember in HTML events, it's for called under lowercase. In React elements, it is under camel case. Means I have to use onClick as a function, which I'm calling in HTML code, where onClick is defined as an event in JavaScript. But in React, I'm using onClick. C will be capital here. In HTML events, I just call it as a function, which is with parentheses. In React, I will be calling with curly braces, something like this. Okay. So what this HTML code tells me? It tells me it's a button. So when you click, it will call a function of game. What does this React alternative tells me? It's on click. When you click, this will make a call to this function component game, or whatever that arrow function game. If you look at this, this is without parameters. In that without parameters, I have passed it const game equal to this, no parameter passed. It says alert game started. So it generated me alert that game has started. Okay. Can I pass the parameters to it? Definitely. You can pass the parameters to it as well. So when I pass the parameter, it says check value. So whenever the alert is generated, now that alert says check. Okay. Then what? Next is React event object. So the event handlers will have the access to the React event objects that trigger the function. Means if it was triggered by a click, if it was triggered by hover, if it was by something else, all of that React event object has the access to. Now, if you look at this, what I'm doing here is on click equal to event. I'm passing two parameters. First, I'm passing check, which is a string. Second, I'm passing as an event. Now here, if you look at line number 179, const game equal to a comma b, alert b dot type. So when you say b dot type, you're technically talking about event dot type. So which is the event dot type? Event dot type is click here. If it was hover, if it was mouse over or something else, accordingly that type will be printed. Then what? Then we move to React conditional. So in terms of React conditional, what are the conditional statement we can use? Let's go over it. First is using the if operator. So inside the if operator, I created two different functions, true and false, returning true, returning false. I define this constant value equal to true. So if condition is true, it will return true. So I'm calling this true function here, true functional component here. I'm calling this false functional component here, which is output true. Then using AND operator. So here I've given an array, as you can see, or a list as you call it. Inside that array or list, I'm giving this AND operator, cast.length greater than 0, which cast.length is 3, and prop is this. So since this condition is correct, that's why I got the prop is deva, right? But if this condition was not correct, for example, I make this as empty array. Now, since this condition is not correct, second part of the output will not be printed. So I'll just have the output garage. Same I can do in ternary operator also. So there are for ternary operator, I can print true, I can print false, etc., etc. Then we move to React list. What are React list? In React, we render list using loops, pretty much just like array. What do you render using? Using just the map function. So this is the list. What I'm doing here is I'm writing an unordered list. I have to walk through it. So inside that I'm saying cards.map. So map function, which is in JavaScript, I'm using cars.map value equal to list items value. Means it will list over all of these values, Tesla, Audi, and Mercedes, and it will give you the output as Tesla, Audi, and Mercedes. Again, this is part of the unordered list, so you'll get all of them as list items. All right, what next? Next, we have keys. What is the purpose of keys? Keys allows React to, by the way, this would have generated you a warning if you're using the previous React version. This doesn't generate any warning as such. But in the warning that keys are not defined. So what are the key allows React to keep track of elements in the list? So if an item is updated or removed, only that item should be re-rendered rather than the entire list. That's why we use the concept of keys. Keys, as the name says, it has to be unique for each value in the list. Now, what do? I define cards rather than keeping it just, it's still a list, but apart from that, I give some ID. In worst case, if you cannot find anything which is unique for each element in an array, in that case, you can use the index as the ID, or you can use the index as the key. But usually we just define an ID attribute. So 1, 2, 3. Now that makes it unique. Now what I'm doing is cars.map value equal to list element, key equal to value.id, and brand equal to value.brand. So value.id will become 1, brand will become Tesla, 2 and Audi, 3 and Mercedes. Then finally, we start with React forms. Just like in HTML forms, React uses forms to allow users to interact with the web page, right? Now, adding forms in React, how does it do? So this you can simply put a form just like you used to do in HTML, input type equal to text, value equal to name, and you can tell whatever the name you want. That's it. All right, guys, this is what we have discussed in the last class. In today's class, we have just few things to cover before starting with our project. I would like to start in a fresh class, so not today. So today's class can be a bit shorter as compared to other classes. We will cover the direct routes first, then we'll go for states, then we'll go for hooks. States and hook will take time, so it can be longer as well, but I expect this class to be shorter, less than 2 hours. But anyways, quickly give me yes in the chat if everybody clear with the revision, and then we can go for the next part. Quickly give me yes or clear in the chat. Okay, all good. Let's start with again router. Router or routes, whatever you want to call it. Okay. What is the purpose of routes? Let's understand that. You must have seen in lot of websites, pretty much all of the websites, you will see different pages have different endpoints. Different pages have different endpoints. Mean something is home, then you have slash home contact, then you have slash home about us, and something slash home products or whatever it is. These are your React routers. I'm pretty much sure you guys have seen this in majority of the websites. They usually have home, contact, about us, products. Some different endpoints, and each different endpoint is taking them to a different website. Website means different page in the website. Website is same, but each individual route is taking them into different parts of the website. I hope everybody has seen that. Agree? Everybody should have seen that. It's very popular one, right? Okay. Anyways, if you have not seen it, you can just open Facebook because Facebook is built up on React. So go to my profile, it will say /Facebook/profile. And if you want to change something /Facebook/settings or whatever it would be. So this slash where you're seeing where it is taking you to different components of a website, that is what you call as React routes. Now, create React tab that we have, it does not include the React tab. Okay. So this is one part. The create React tab that we have used, CRA, create React tab doesn't include page account. Okay. So hence it needs to be separately installed. It needs to be separately installed. So remember, we have done create React tab, then we have done npm install and npm start. Create React tab doesn't include page routing. That's why we have to, if you have to install the React router, you have to do it separately. What is the command for it? And do it parallelly. I'm giving you the command as well. The command is called npm -d React router dot. I'm giving this command in the chat. There you go. Let me open my VS Code as well. Let me do it parallelly also. Let me clear everything else. Command. The command which I just gave you, let me simply paste it and install. Okay. Just do I means for install, npm is not packet manager, hyphen d react router dot. Okay. So 6 has severity. This is fine. This is fine. This is added three packages. They have added three packages, and all of this looks good. Now, which folder we need to? Yeah, same folder. Everything will happen in the same folder. First React tab or first tab, whatever it is. Your first app, Devang, or first app, your first name. Everything will happen inside the same folder. You will not change the folder. When we change the folder, I'll tell you. But as of now, we are not changing any folder. Installation happens there. Okay. So you just type this command, and once you type this command, it will just install your React routes. Once all of you guys are done, just type done in the chat. I've given the command already in the chat. Once you guys are done installing, type done in the chat. Come on, guys, type done in the chat. Once you guys are done. All done? Just type done in the chat. I'm waiting for that one. Okay. If all of you are done, now let's try to see how do we utilize this route. Once you're successfully installed, now your edited package, yeah, whatever number of package, that depends on like whichever version you are using. So nothing to worry about. Now, in terms of React routes, now we have just added route. Now let's see how to utilize it. Means different endpoint should lead to different functional component, functional class component, whatever, but different endpoint should lead to different components. So it leads to different parts of the pages. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make several changes in my folder, and I want all of you guys to parallelly do it. So you guys don't miss out on it. What I want to do is I'll take you just back to my VS Code. I'll show the VS Code here. I'll just clear this and I will just keep my chat window here and reduce it. Okay. So you have here something called SRC, and then in SRC you have app.js and everything else, right? Inside your SRC folder, I want you to create another folder. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say new folder. I want you to create a new folder named pages. Okay. Inside pages, I want you to create several different files. So new file, layout.js, so RFC, React functional component. Okay. Few files I want you to create, layout.js, right click, and again new file, home.js, again new file, just put blocks.js, and that's it. These three are sufficient, to be honest. If you want to create one more, which is contact.js. Okay. Inside each of these file, just type RFC and do a tab. It will just give you a functional component. Otherwise, you can write the code also. RFC tab, RFC tab, React function component. If you just give RC, it will give you the state component. So arrow function versus non-arrow function, that will give you. Anyways, summarizing up, and I'll give you times to catch up. Inside your SRC, just create a folder named pages. Inside pages, create four files: blocks.js, home.js, contact.js, layout.js. Once you're done with this, just type down in the chat. I'm writing here also. Okay. Inside that, it should be layout.js, home.js, blocks.js, and contact.js. These should be the 4 files. Once you guys are done, please type done in the chat, all of you. All done? Cool. Now what I want is inside each of these files, if you're using VS Code, let me tell you something. This will be very helpful for you whenever you're using React projects and you want to make it very quickly. In VS Code, we have many extensions. If you're using VS Code, just go to the extensions. Inside that extension, just search for React. Okay. The very first extension, which is ES7 plus React Redux React Native. This is a very good extension. So if you have not installed it, I would highly recommend that you install it. Repeating it again. I didn't want the output here. Just 1 minute. Close this. I don't need it here. Move this here. Okay. Inside the React tab, sorry, inside the VS Code, just go to extensions. In the extension, just type for React. This extension, which is ES7 plus React Redux React Native snippet, this is very helpful. As you can see, number of downloads have been more than 7 million. And the author is this, right? So once you have downloaded this, inside this, you can find many useful things. For example, yeah, click on install button. That's it. Just click on install button, it will install like this. Okay. So it can give you overview. What are some really quick things you can do? For example, you can do RFC, you can do some 10 other things, contributions you can see, change log and runtime status, all of that you can see. Snippets, I think they have moved to different part. Let me open and show you the snippets as well. These are the snippets, right? So if you have to import, you can just type IMP tab. If you have to do RFC, you can type RFC tab, etc., etc. So which are very helpful and very, very useful whenever you're making shortcuts, right? So with the one that I used, I was just use RFC. So if you want to make create class component, RCC, you want to make functional component, just type RFC, three components and all like this. This is what I just used. Okay. Anyways, so this is very helpful. This snippets is something. Yeah, that's what I'm explaining. The main feature of this snippet is the main feature of this particular extension is that it will make you very quick in terms of making React application. You can definitely write the code, no doubt about this. But sometimes like you have to create a quickly a component, so you just type RFC tab rather than writing the whole code. So that's why we use this. It just makes your React application development much quicker. Okay. Cool guys. Once you're done with this, then just go to each of these 4 files and just type this RFC, and then tab. That's it. RFC and then tab. Once you guys are done, it will create in each of these files. You have to just type RFC and done, and this will give you something like this. I'm giving that also. RFC. That's all you have to do. Anyways, once you guys are done with this for all the 4 files, which is home.js and blocks.js, contact.js, etc., etc., just give me yes in the chat once you guys are done with it. Okay, all done. Now outside the pages, let me update that in the Sublime text also. So if somebody wants to revise inside each file, and RFC plus tab. Before that, install VS Code extension for React snippets. And then you can just do RFC plus tab. Once this part is done, then I want you to do this. Outside the pages, so inside pages, you have this 4 file. Outside the pages, just create a file.js or a new file, which is not here inside the pages, outside the pages in the SRC. Just name it as file.js. Just like you have app.js, it should be file.js. And copy the code from your app.js, just paste it in your file.js. That's it. And yeah, that's it. And once you guys are done with it, just let me know. Then I will show you which modifications to do. Just create a file.js inside SRC, not inside page. Inside SRC, create a file.js. Whatever you have in app.js, copy and paste it. Once you guys are done, please type them in the chat. Okay. Now I want to import certain things. So you type import. In that import, what I want to import first, I want to import browser router. I want to import routes, and I do want to import one route as well. Okay. From where I want to import that from React router DOM. Let's make it React router DOM. Okay. Import your browser router, routes and route. 3 different modules I've imported from React router DOM. I'll give this code as it is. Then what next? Import the files that you have created. Let me take the chat window here. Import the files that you have created. So here, import your layout from pages layout. It automatically will tell you. Import your home from pages home. Import your blocks from pages blocks. And what next? Layout, home, blog, and contact, right? So import contact from pages contact. So these 4 files, which are the functional components we are importing, and this we are importing, these 3 different modules we are importing from React router DOM. So this is the total code. Copying this, pasting it here in the chat. Okay. Once you guys are done, please type them in the chat. Well, guys, all of you be quick and make sure that none of you is missing out. Once you guys are done, then type them in the chat. Yeah. Majority of you are done. So let's move to next part, which is this. Remove everything from this return function. So just keep this part. Remove everything else. Just keep a fragment of code. You technically don't even need fragment of code. Just replace with browser router and browser router. Okay. Just do this part. Type done. Then I will tell you the next part. Replace the empty fragment, remove everything, replace the empty fragment with browser router. Once you guys are done, then type done in the chat. The props we don't have, and this name also would change. This will become function 5. Okay. The name of the file has to be the name of the functional component. So it's file.js, so this will become function file. Props you are not passing, remove the props. Okay. Name will become function file. Props you are not passing, so remove the props here. Once you guys are done, just type down in the chat. We'll change the default type. We'll just call this file function there. First, let's make all the changes here. Then we'll call the file function. Export default type will also change. Yes, it will become export default file. It will become the export default. We're just exporting the same function component, so the app will also change to file. Once you guys are done, just type down in the chat. Easy? Okay. Now inside browser router, I want you to create routes. Just routes, nothing else. Inside browser router, just type routes with the S and that's it. Again, please type down in the chat once you guys are done and give space between them because we'll be writing code here. So separate browser routes and routes with the ending tags, and now we'll be writing the code here. Okay. Now very carefully see the code. Inside your route, you give route equal to path. Just one path I am giving. I give element equal to my layout and this. Okay. Simply open route path equal to just a backslash element equal to layout and close this. Okay. Copy this, paste it, paste it, paste it. Inside one of this, I'm going to replace it to index also. So React index element equal to, that will become my home page. So just replace my home. Then path equal to blocks, path equal to contact. Here you can call blocks. Here you can call contact. Okay. What else? Nothing else. Just close the router. Okay. What's it? Route has no corresponding closing tag. How is that possible? Okay, let's see again. We create a route path equal to this. I did close this, which is fine. And index I have closed, path I have closed, corresponding routes I have closed. What is missing here? Let's see. First route path equal to this element. I'm just rendering the layout with backslash. Fine. This backslash is fine. This route is closing here. What else is there? Let's remove this. No, inner routes is fine. I'm just checking for the external route. Why this external route is not closed? This should have closed by here. It's not required now, as per the updated recent React version. It's not required, but okay, not an issue. We can close the routes. Okay. Now, what I've done here is just after inside this browser route and routes, I've created 4 different routes. What are these 4 different routes? Route name starting with path equal to this, element equal to layout. What I'm exactly doing here, now we are very comfortable with this code. I'm calling functional component layout. I'm calling functional component home, functional component blocks, functional components contact, right? Where are these components importing from? I'm importing these components from here. So whatever I have created in SRC, so if I open here, inside your SRC pages, you have created these 4 blocks, contact, home, and layout. That is what you are calling and importing here, and that is what you are making a call to them here. Here, I've just defined them as 4 different routes. Copy this, paste it here, have it in the chat. What each of this route does, this is telling me if just you give backslash, it will just import layout. It will just render the layout. Index means that is going to be the home element. Blocks means slash blocks means it will lead to blocks. Slash contact means leads to contact. Okay. So I'm writing here also. Here it means we'll avoid command. We'll write the command at once we are done. Once you're done with this, please let me know in the chat and then I'll start telling you what to do next. Okay. This part is done. Now let's go to our layout, home, blocks, contact. Let's try to just add certain things. Not much, just basic things I'm going to add. So let's go to blocks.js path. We are giving different. I'll explain all the code. I'll explain on the code. Let's do the coding. Let's see what it happens. Then explain all the code one by one. So don't worry about it. I'll write it down as well. Let's go to blocks. Inside the blocks, just add few statements. That's it. Which is that hey, I'm returning h1 blocks. That's it. Just let's add one line, return h1 blocks inside all of them. So blocks, I'm returning blocks. Content, contact, I will be saying contact. Oh, this. Home, I'll be saying this is home. And layout, I'm just saying layout. Okay. Layout, home, contact, blocks. This is done. Just add one statement, which is just telling about what that file is, nothing else. Once you guys are done, please type done in the chat. All of these 4 files, do render this. Blocks, contact, home, layout, all 4 of them, just return their h1. That's it. Once you guys are done, type done in the chat. Easy. Okay. Last thing which we need to change is inside our index.js. Inside my index.js, here I want to call, instead of app, I want to call that file. So I need to import file from dot/file.js and just render file name. You don't have to give any props or remove it, just render file. That's it. These 2 changes are required. So what you do is import file from file and just root.render file. Post that, you can just start with your npm start. All right, once you're done with these changes, just start with your npm start and there we go. My React server is still starting. Let's see what we have. App is defined never used, unused variable, not an issue. I'm fine with it. Backslash. H1 blocks. No, no, in the 4 files, just return corresponding 4 files. So blocks for blocks, contact for contact, home for home, layout for layout. That's it. Come on, guys, be quick. Once you guys are done, do let me know. Okay. Once you guys are done, now let me show what have we actually done. I'm just going to minimize this and let's go one by one. Starting from what we have done. Let's start from here. What I'm doing is I'm doing a root.render file. I'm making a call to my functional component, which is file. Where is that functional component, which is file.js? Inside file.js, what exactly you have done? You have imported browser router, you have imported routes, and you've imported route. Three things you have imported here from React router DOM. Now, apart from that, 4 pages you're going to call. So layout, home, blocks, contact, these are the 4 pages you're going to make a call. Inside that, what you have done, you are calling browser router and routes. So inside browser router and routes, that is the syntax, by the way. You define all the different routes that you're going to use. First thing, you're going to define all the different routes that you're going to use. Inside that routes, you have given total 4 routes. One is index, one is path, one is element, one is index. What the syntax means, let me tell you with each of the route. With each of the route, what you exactly do is you make a call to React path or route path equal to backslash means if the path is backslash means localhost slash 3000 backslash, it will just render layout. Okay. And that route closes here. Then you say index. Index means what is going to be the home page. That is where you're rendering the home page. When slash block would be there, it will be reading you to blocks, and slash contact would be there, it will be reading you to contact. That's what you have done. Where are these files defined? These files are defined in pages. So you go to pages, you see blocks.js. You're returning just blocks from here. Block contact, you're returning contact from here. Home, you're returning home from here. And layout, you're returning layout from here. So that is why when you go to the home page, you will see layout. When you put slash blocks, you will see blocks. When you see slash contact, you see contact, and so on and so forth. And that is how you create React routes. Once everybody is done type coding and you have done npm start and you're able to see the output, please type done in the chat. Take your time, code everything that I have just told you. Coding, I think, is done for all. Just type npm start and see the output by changing slash blocks, slash contact, so on and so forth. Once you're done, then we can move next. Just update me in the chat. All right, cool. Some of you, no, majority of you have got the output, so that's fine. Let me minimize this and let me write down the note that I have just told you. I'll write down the notes in detail, so you don't have to worry about it, but do make sure to revise that. Okay, let's go one by one what we have done so far. Understanding of. There you go. And the only code, let's go one by one because majority of the codes is in this file. Rest of the files don't have much code, so I'm focused on this. Understanding of this code. Very first thing is what is that browser router, right? So first thing, we wrap our content first with browser router. Inside browser router, I have wrapped all my content. So if you see the top level element here, the top level element is browser router. Okay, that is first part. Second, what is routes? Routes is nothing. Routes is combination of route. Route is just a combination of route which can have multiple routes inside it. So this is again a wrapper routes. It tells me what are the routes for me, and each individual route is then given called a route. So I'm going one by one. One is what is actually your browser router, what is actually your routes, and then what actually is your route. Every route is individually a different web page. Every route is individually a different web page, right? And what else? Route can be nested. Route can be nested. Let's focus on this. I'll show the code again. Let's focus on what I'm trying you to understand. Route can be nested. What else? Then inside that, we have made something with slash and we have made something with index. Let's try to understand what does this slash mean and what does this index means. So path equal to slash. Path equal to slash means when I say localhost 3000 slash, that is one call will be made here. So here the call was what? For layout. So call will be made to layout, part number one. Part number two, then we have something called index element also. I'm going to copy this, paste it here. What do you mean by index element? So index attribute denotes the default page. Okay. What is going to be the default page to be rendered? That is given by index attribute. Path I have already told it. What next? That's it. Nothing else. Apart from that, looks good. Now let me walk you through the code at once. Okay. Three things. Browser router routes, one moment. Like normally the starting page is slash, but if you want our starting web page or route should be always locally run and not backslash, then how can we do that? Slash home and not this, then how can we do that? In that case, by default, it will be just this. By default, it will be your file names backslash this. So what you can do is you can make a parent route for this. Inside that parent route, you can make a child route for element. So what will happen is by default, the call will always be this. It has to be this way only. But whenever this parent component is rendered, you want to make a call to one child component. So make one child, child means nested, one child or one nested route. Inside that, you can make a call to one. So what will happen is whenever call will go here, it will make a call to slash. That's something you can do. Okay. So inside your parent route, make a nested net. So this is the parent one. Inside that, make a nested route and make a call to the home one. That's it. As of now, they are not nested, they are individual. But if you want to make that after that certain particular element should be called, then you can make a nested one. Anyways, now let me just walk you through this code one by one. I have imported three things: browser router, routes, and route for my React router DOM. I have imported 4 files: layout, home, blocks, contact, which is easy. We written the code there. We have just imported them. Now focus on this code. The first line, which is browser router and closing here. Browser router is our topmost layer, which we are wrapping our content within the browser router. Means all routes that I have in my web page, I'm just wrapping them inside the topmost container, which is browser router. Okay. What next? Next, I have routes. What is this routes denoting? Routes is the second level I have. This says what are the combination of different route I have. And obviously, I can have multiple routes. That is just giving me routes. Inside that, let me put it here. Inside that, I define 4 routes. In every route, I have something called path, I have something called element, and I have something called ending route, right? What's happening at line number 109 to 1112? Try to understand. You are defining route path. What should be the path to call that file? What is the element to be called? So if you look at line 111, that gives you very clear idea. If the path is blocks, it is rendering blocks.js or whatever, blocks functional component. Means if you go to localhost port number 3000 slash blocks, the moment you type slash blocks, it will make a call to blocks or basically blocks.js and it will render the function. Okay. Similarly, when you say localhost slash 3000 slash contact, it will make a call to contact.js and it will just give you the contact output. Similarly, it will give you the home output. Similarly, it will give you the layout output. The only difference is, so this is part number 3. The only difference is whenever you see index means the home page. So this will make a call to the home page. And this path equal to slash, this is by default, and that will be rendered at layout 1. So first you see render, and also you see the home page, then you see the blocks. If you slash blocks and slash contact will give you the contact. Everybody clear with this? Let me know. Any doubt, feel free to ask. I think now this code should be making much more sense. Now this code should be making much more sense. Blocks.js file, it contains just return block statement. That's it. Come on, guys. Once you guys are done, please type down in the chat so I can move to next part. And also change back in index.js. Once you're done with testing it, just change back whatever the file name was, which was app. So I'm changing back to app. So now your website will become whatever it was before. Okay. Now, this part is done. Let's come back to our Sublime text. Here I come to my chat application. I'm getting error. What error are you getting? Which is reactor out, and this is done. JX tags and your HTML, your H1 tag is not ended. That's why you're getting the error. Return your H1. So after blocks, you have to close the H1 tag. React routes is done. Post it here. Now we'll go for React hooks and React states. This might take time, but let's try to finish as quickly as we can. Okay. Cool. This is done. Now let's go to React hooks. React hooks will take time, so I'll take it to slow. So let's start with React hooks. All right. Cool, guys. Enough time. Focus your utmost attention here. I think routes is clear, right? All you have to do is, anyways, we'll be using routes in all our projects, so don't worry about it. If you don't get it, don't worry about it. Anyways, you should have got it. You've written the code, you've seen the output. The code is wrong here, but you wrote wrongly blocks UI. You wrote wrongly H1 blocks. Yeah, I've already told him. I think he has corrected it by now. Anyways, coming to this, route should be clear to all. Any doubts in the route, please let me know. How you create different slash and it leads to different web page. That is what React routes is used for. Any doubt in the routes, let me know. If you guys are clear, please type me. Guys, React routes, everybody clear? Please type clear. Any doubts, please ask. All right. Now we are going to move to next topic, which is React hooks. React hooks is going to be our last topic in the theory of React. But please show the nested routes that you told some time ago in near future. Okay. Nested routes, probably we can use in one of the projects, but just to tell you, the way you do nested routes is, let's come back here in our file.js. The way you want to do our rested app is not defined, non-def. Search for the keywords, learn more. App is not defined, no undef. You don't have to use the app in index.js. You just have to use the find it. So I replaced it, but inside of this file, inside of this app, it should be file. Okay. Also, while you're exporting, make sure that exporting default file. You're exporting default line. Line number 25, last line of your code. You're exporting default file, not default tab. Okay. Now, in terms of nested route, what you can do is inside this parent element, create it here. Before closing it, you can create one more route here. That's how you can create a child element. Okay, nested route if you are asking. Okay, cool guys. Enough time. I think on routes we have given more than time than was required. But anyways, we've almost an hour working now. It will work fine. Don't worry about it. The code is correct. I've seen the output. I've shown you the output, and I explained each and every part of the code. So it will work. Don't worry. Now, focusing on React hooks, focus all your attention here. Routes we have discussed. What is it used for? How it is coded? How it is implemented? How do you make a call? It's very simple. You just use browser router as a topmost element. Inside that, you define routes and each individual routes you define. Make a call to import all of the routes that you want to call. Just return whatever you want to return from there and just make a call. That's it. Play around with this code. If this is the first time you're seeing this, it's not that difficult to be honest. But since you're using it for the first time, some of you, so it might look a little bit difficult. But if you play around with it, you will see it's a simple thing. You are just importing something and you are just running something. That's it. Okay. Anyways, React hooks is important. And since we're left with around only an hour, let's try to complete React hooks with as much as we can. So focus your utmost attention here. Come back here. React routes is done. Focus your utmost attention here. No coding now. Try to understand your theory. Then we'll go for coding again. Okay. What are React hooks? Hooks were added to React in version 16.8. 16.8 was a very important version for React because the major highlight was that hooks were added to the React, right? What does hooks allow me? What is hooks in general? Hooks allow functional components to have access to state and other React features. And this is very important. Functional component didn't have access to the state. So in terms of your React lifecycle, use state and all of the functions that have been used, functional components did not have any access to any of this React state. Only via hooks, when hooks were introduced, it gives the access of functional components to have access to state. Prior to that, only class components have access to state, and that's why we're using class component. But when hooks came into picture, class components are no more required. Okay. This I've written before also, but I'm telling you again. The functional components plus hooks makes it equivalent as what? Makes it equivalent as class component. And again, this is functionality wise. Okay. Which we should use class component or function. I would prefer that you can use directly functional component. You don't need class component anymore along with hooks. Everything that you can do via class component, you can do by functional component and hooks. Okay. So that's the whole idea. You move away from class components. Nowadays, nobody uses it. Although React has not removed it, but nobody uses it anymore because you can have hooks and functional component, which serves the same purpose as your class components. Okay. Now let's move into the next part. Is like, what is a hook and how you can exactly hook. Before I go to hook, I need to make sure that you understand use state and all. But anyways, let's start with what is a hook. A hook, let me put it here. A hook, as the name says, hook means to insert something or to inject something. Allows you to hook into React features. as state. Hook allows you, as the name says, it's a hook. It allows you to hook into React features as state. Okay, part number one. I'm not showing you the code because at this moment, writing code for hook doesn't make any sense, right? But certain things we should know about when we'll understand use state and everything, then we'll definitely go for the code of hook. You definitely should import hooks from React. So whenever you'll be writing the code for hooks, you will be importing the hooks from React. Part number one. Okay. What is the state? You have been saying the terms that we have to use React features as state. What exactly do you mean by state? Let's try to understand that. State means state generally refers to application data or that is to track. Anything that current working that is simple definition. Anything that current work with called a state. It may be a variable, it may be an array, it may be a string, it may be an object or anything else. So anything that you're currently working with, that is called a state. As simple as that. Okay. What next? Hook rules. So whenever we talk about hook rules, there are certain rules that you have to follow while using any rules, while using any hooks. There are 3 rules to use hooks. What are the 3 rules? The first rule is that hooks can only be called inside function component. You cannot call a hook inside class component. Doesn't make any sense. The whole idea of creating a hook is that whatever class component have access to, you provide the same access to the functional component. So hooks can never be called inside class component. They will be only called inside functional components. Second, hooks can only be called at the top level. Now, what do you mean by only be called at the top level? As we have seen, the browser router was at the top level, and then at the secondary level, you have routes, and then you have individual routes. So when you are calling a hook, you can only call hook at the top level. Then hooks cannot be conditional. Means you cannot put conditions on a hook. You cannot say if and whatever condition, then you make a call to hook, something like this. This is incorrect. This whole thing is incorrect. You cannot put conditions on a hook. So you whenever you be calling a hook, it will be without any condition. Okay. That's it. In terms of theory of hooks, this much is sufficient. Then I'll go for individual hooks and then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about use state and other kind of hooks. In your syllabus, majority of the one is use, but use effect, use context, reducer, etc. Anyways, I'll discuss that. When we'll go for the code, it will explain everything. Only on the basis of hooks or on the first part of hook that you need to know in theory is this. We are going to start with each individual hook, then we'll see the code and everything. But as of now, only on the other point that you need to know. First, hooks were added on version 16.8. The whole idea is you give the functional components have same access as the class component. So class component have access to React features like state and lifecycle components, which functional component does not have. Now, to avoid that discrepancy, hooks were introduced. Means you insert hook in a functional component, it will behave exactly like a class component. All accesses a class component has in terms of React, with hook, a functional component can also have. That's why I've written this. Functional component plus hooks pretty much behaves like class components in terms of functionality wise. Then we talked about what is a hook. Hook allows us to hook into React features as state. So if in React feature, I want to introduce a functional component to implement it, I would be able to do it using hook. Part one. Second, you must import hooks from Git. When I'll be using hooks, I'll be importing hooks from Git. Whether it's a use state, use effect, I'll be importing it. What do you mean by state? This term has been in there quite a long times. State means any application data or properties that needs to be tracked, right? So any application data or properties that you're currently working with, that is called a state. Three rules of hook. First is that it can only be inside functional component. It has no task inside class component. It will give you error if you try to call inside class component. Second, it can only be called at the top level. Means whatever the top level element that you have in your functional component, only there you will be calling the hook. Means here, if this is a top level element, I'll be calling the hook here. I cannot call the hook here or here. You will be only calling at the top level element. Then hooks cannot be conditional. You cannot call hooks with a condition. Every time hook will be called, they will be called without conditions. Everybody clear with this? Give me clear in the chat. And then we are going to discuss about all category of hooks, which is relevant for you. Just to give you an overhead, it is use state. It is use state is the only one which we'll be using, honestly, at least till our projects as well. But just to tell you, there are use effect, there is use context, there is use reference, there is use memo, there is use callback. There are many hooks, to be honest. What else? Use effect, use context, use reference, use reducer is also there. Yeah, that's it. But anyways, in our case, majority of the times we'll be using use state. Sometime, probably sometime we can use reducer, but not that important. But use state is something which we'll be using very common. Anyways, everybody clear with this? Give me clear in the chat, and then I'll start with a particular hook which is use state. Any one hook you understand, rest all the hooks you will understand. Okay. So I'll start with use state, which is the most common one, most popular one, and something which you'll be using very often. Quickly give me clear, guys, if all of you are clear, then we can start. All right. I'll just copy this and update here also. It should be present top level point that is not clear. It will be clear by code. Let's cover the use state. It's not that difficult. That's what I'm saying. Top level element means this element. You're making a hook. You have to make it at the top level element. You cannot define a hook here. You cannot say use state here. You have to use state at the top level element. That's what it means. Anyway, this will make it much clear. Let's start with number one, which is React use state. Very important, very important. Focus your attention here. React use state hook. So put it here, put it here. Now, what is use state hook? What does it mean allows me? This allows to track state in a functional component. Okay. This use state hook allows to track state in a functional component. Let's put it this way. My use state hook allows me to track my state in a functional component. What does state means? We have already discussed. It generally refers to data or properties that need to be tracked in an application. Okay. State refers to data or properties that needs to be tracked in an application. Now, the first thing is that if you're using use state, you need to import. So import use state. When I'll be using it, you have to import it. So to use the useState hook, we must first need to import it. Okay, how do you import it? The code is this: import useState from React. That's it. Simple one-line code. First thing, if you want to use it, you need to import it. So import useState from React. That's it. Okay. First part, importing, part number one. Part number two is initializing. Once you have successfully imported, now you need to initialize also. So you need to initialize. So you have to understand that useState accepts an initial state and returns two value. Means think it like a function. It's not exactly a function, but think it like a function where it takes one parameters and returns two values. So takes one parameter and returns two values. Which parameter it takes? The parameter it takes is what is the current state? Okay. Initial state. And what does it returns? It returns two values. First, the current state, and second, a function that updates the state. It's fine if you are not able to visualize this, because when we'll write the code, everything will become crystal clear. So two things in terms of use state. First thing, it allows me to track state in a functional component. What is the state? It refers to the data properties that needs to be tracked in my application. Part number one, if I'm going to use useState, I need to import it. How do I import it? Import useState from React. Simple one line of code. Simple. Second part, after importing, how to use it? You need to initialize that. In order to initialize useState, you have to understand it accepts an initial state. It takes one parameter and it returns two values. What is the parameter it takes? Initial state it takes as a parameter. What does it return? It returns two items. One is what is the current state and what is the function that has updated the state. I'm going to write the code and that will give you a crystal clear idea. I import this. After importing this, I write a function, let's say favorite, or let's just say favorite class, something like this. Now, inside that, I'm just going to define batch and set batch. And I'm going to use state, whatever the current value. Let's say I give MERN batch. That's it. Now observe this code. This will tell you everything I have just explained. I'll go line by line. Import use state from React means I want to use the use state hook. That's why I've imported from the React. Line 272 clear to all. Line 272 clear to all. Just type yes in the chat if it is clear. Okay. Next, line number 274. This is a functional component. The name of the functional component is favorite class. There is no prop pass here. There is no properties or parameter passed. Okay. Inside that, constant batch comma set batch equal to use state one. This is what? This is destructuring. What is returning is I'm making as part of destructured output. One is batch and one is set batch. What did I tell you? It returns two items. One it returns is the current state. One it returns is the function that updates the state. In that use state, I have given the initial state. So this is the parameter. This thing is my initial state, which is MERN. What is my current state? My current state is batch. And what is the function that updates the state? That is set batch. That's it. It takes one initial state as a parameter, which is one here. It returns two values. First is the current state value, which is batch, and second is the function which update the value, which is set batch. Is this part clear to all? Give me clear in the chat. Any doubt, please feel free to ask. Have a look at this code. Any doubt, please feel free to ask. If it is clear, I clear the chat. With set batch, we can update. Yes, we can update batch. With set batch, we can update batch. Yes. The state that we are talking about is batch. So yeah, we can update batch. Come on guys, be quick. This should not be that difficult. Be quick guys, this should not be that difficult. It's simple, right? Repeating it again, anybody has doubt, please ask. This is a very straightforward thing. Think it like a function. Hooks are not functions, just to be clear. But if you have to very easily understand, think it like a function. It returns one, it takes one parameter, returns two values. The parameter it takes is the what is the initial state? So my initial state is MERN. What does it return? It returns two things. One is the current state. So my batch will be referring to the current state, whether it is MERN or something else. And second is a function which updates that. So which function updates that? Set batch actually updates my batch. That's it. Let's be quick. Constant batch set batch use state MERN. It's a destructuring or code pushing, as in this question mentioned geometry. This is destructuring. This is destructuring that you're using. Okay. Cool. Let me clear this one and then go to next part. Before that, let me write everything that I just said. Okay. Here, first, we are destructuring the return values from use state. Is there any concept linked code pushing? Code pushing as such, there is no concept. But when we say code pushing, a lot of people mean by code pushing is that hook is something which is a hook is something which is hook your code into some functional component. So that's what they call code pushing. So while I'm using the use state function, inside that I'm doing the code pushing. That's what they mean. But that has no relevance in this line. In this line, we are just the main case is that we are using the use state hook, definitely yes. But more than that, we are destructuring the response into batch and set batch. Okay. We are destructuring the response here into what? Batch and set batch. Okay. What next? The first value that I have, which is batch. What does it do? This is our current state. And the second value that you have, which is set batch. This is the function that is used to update our state. Okay. So we destructure the response into two parts. One is the batch, one is the set batch. As I told you, it takes one parameter, which is MERN, which is your current state. So your current state, sorry, your initial state is MERN As you can see, use state takes one parameter in terms of MERN, which is like your initial state, returns two things. One is the current state. So this batch is the current state, and a function that updates the state. Means this set batch will be updating the state. This part clear to all? Give me clear in the chat. Then we are going to write the code in VS Code. Then we're going to see the output. Come on, guys, be quick. Quickly give me clear if everybody clear with this. Straightforward. Use state is super simple, and we are going to write the code. You will see it's so simple. It's just like one function that you have found. All the hooks are not function, but in terms of ease of understanding, you can pretty much think like a function. Just returning two things. All right. We can have multiple use state set variables. Yes. If you're working with different states, then yes, we can have multiple use states. All right, guys. Enough time on this one, on initializing use state. Let's look at the code, and that will give me much more clarity. Everything. So quickly revising what you've done in the use state hook before I move to the code part on VS Code. First, it allows me to track state in a functional component. What is the state? Refers to data properties that needs to be tracked in. Now, two part. One is that I have to import it and then I have to use it or initialize it. In terms of import, I can simply write import use state from React. That's how you import it. If I have to initialize it, it's just think like a function. It's not a function. Hook is not a function, but just think like a function. It takes one parameter, returns two values. What parameter it takes? It takes the initial state. What does it return? It returns two things. One is that what is the current state and what is the function that is going to update the state. So when I say batch and set batch and use state MERN, this is my initial state. Initial state is MERN. What is it returning? It's returning two things. So batch is the current state and set batch is the function that is going to update the state. That's it. Okay. Now we are going to have a look at the code part. The first part is the read state, and second, how do you update state? Both of the code we are going to see. As the name says, in the read state, we will not be changing the state, not changing state. And in the update state, we will be changing state. Okay. Now let me take you to VS Code. Here you are. Come back here. Go to your app.js. You can minimize file.js and everything. Go to your app.js. I'm just going to split screen so you guys can see it all. There we are. Okay. Okay. Just let me know if you guys can see everything. Left side, you can see the output. Right side, you can see the VS Code running. Just let me know if you guys can see it. Be quick in the chat, guys. On the right hand side, you should be able to see the code. On the left hand side, you should be able to see the output. Just type yes if you guys can. Okay, all of you can. Cool, then let's start with the coding. Form and all, we don't need anymore. So I'm deleting the form. We have already discussed it, not repeating it again. Now focus on something important. What I'm going to do here is inside my function app, even I don't need a props. You want to use it, you can, but that's fine. Only at the top element, I will have a constant same batch comma set batch and batch comma set batch, and I'm going to use a state for mine. Okay, same piece of code. And since I'm using it, I do need to import something, which is import use state from where? From React, nothing else. Okay. Const batch comma set batch equal to use state MERN, and I have imported use state. Now what I'm going to say is inside the return, the current state is what? The current state is batch. And I refresh it. What do I get the output? The current state is 1. Everybody clear with this? Everybody clear with this? Straightforward code, very simple to understand. See what is happening. You said, hey, my initial state is MERN. This current state, since you have not changed, understand this. Why initial state is current state? Because you have not changed it. You just passed the initial state as MERN. So current state is also MERN, right? So you say current state, here we are printing in batch. So batch contains current state, which is still MERN. Set batch, we have not defined it. So set batch is not updated. So it's not giving you any output. If you update anything in the set batch, then definitely, then initial state and current state will change. Look at this code, very simple, very straightforward. Any doubt, please let me know. All clear, type clear. All clear, type clear in the chat. Come on guys, be quick. Be straightforward, nothing to think about it much here, right? Okay. Let's take this, copy this, go back to Sublime, and there goes your code. Simple output, as we just discussed, the current state is 1. This is super easy, right? Nothing to worry about. There you got your output. Now, next part is going to be interesting, where I'm going to update the state also. That was just a read operation, right? What happens if there's a write operation also, if I have to update also? In that case, what will happen? Let's have a look. I come back here, I edit it. Now I need to update as well. So in the case of update, what I'm gonna do? This function set batch that I have, I need to update this set batch. So to update this set batch, I have to define the function. So let's define the function. I type a button. Inside my button, I'm going to have type equal to button and on click equal to set batch. Inside my set batch, I can define what value I want to set. All right, this is good. Close it and that's it. Now just wait a second. Okay, something is incorrect. Inside my button, type equal to, okay, this will be not closed. Inside my button, I got type equal to button. On click is this, use this. This is system design. And what next? Something is missing. There you go. And that's it. Name of the button is change state. Yeah, this looks good. Or even better, let's make it one language. Okay. Now this time I'm actually going to update my state, or this is basically going to be a write operation. A read operation, we have done it. Sounds all good. This is going to be a write operation and see what is happening right now and pay your utmost attention here. We already described this. Batch contains the current state. Set batch contains the function which is going to update. We have not used set batch as of now because we have not updated anything. Now we are using it. Initial state is MERN. That defined as initial state, that is MERN. Current state that is printing, that is the batch, right? So if I see the current state, it is giving me the output as MERN, which is correct. Apart from that, I have declared a button. Inside that button, I say on click set batch system design. Means the moment you click this button, set batch will pass the value system design. Then my current state will become what? My current state will become system design. Name of the button is change state. Now look at the left side carefully. I'm going to click at the button. Did my output change to system design? Did my output change to system design? Yes or no? Come on, guys, be quick. My output did change to system design. Means I am updating my state by using this function, change state. Okay. I refresh it again. So once you refresh it again, initially the current state is MERN, repeating it here. So you can see the current state is MERN. Now if you click on change state, it changed to system design. Now my batch contains system design. That is the output which I was talking about. So code explains us everything, putting it here in the output. I'll explain the output here. This was the output. And after clicking on button, your current state will become system design. All right, this part is done. Now let's move to next. All right, guys. So two things we've discussed in use state is that what is use state? Use state is a simple hook which works with changing the state of your React app, right? It takes one moment. It takes one parameter, which is called the initial state. It gives two output, or it gives two results, which is one is the current state and one is the function which updates. We have seen both of them, the read call as well as the write. We can update set batch variable by props too. Yes, you can pass by props too. I mean, by props, technically what you're doing is you're telling it on click, I have to change this. So if you want to do it by passing a prop, you can do that. Okay. Cool, guys. This is what I have planned for today. And as I told you, today's class would be, let's say, this one. Use effect and use context. It's not that much important, but I can talk all of that for sure. Can you pass the set batch as a prop? Can we pass the set batch as a prop? I think the question is, I didn't get the question. Can you update the set batch by a prop? Is that the question? Or you're passing the set batch as a prop? I want to change the data via child component. Yeah, parent to child you can pass. Parent to child you can pass as a prop. I mean, one component to parent component or parent to child you can pass. That you can do. Okay. Now, as part of the best practices, it's always good to pass from parent to child, not the other way around. But in general, you can pass from one component to another. This complete set batch as well. Okay. Now moving to next, before wrapping up the session, let me revise what we have done in today's class, and then we can take it from there. So first thing is that we talked about the React routes. What are React routes? Very important in terms of React routes. Different endpoints leads to different web pages or different parts of the web pages. How can you make that in a React application? That is done by using React routes. It is not included in CRA, which is create React app, and it needs to be separately installed. This is the commands to separately install. Then we did exercise. We created a folder SRC pages. We created 4 different functional component inside it. I told you about a VS Code extension, which is very useful, which we'll be using a lot of time in our project. So it's better to install right now. Inside each file, just type some snippet code. So RFC type, it generates the RFC code, right? Then this is the code that we have written. We talked about the understanding of the code. The browser route is the topmost layer where we wrap our content first. Inside that, I define what is going to be the list of routes. I can have multiple list of routes. Inside each route is individually a different web page. Routes can be nested as well. So when I say path equal to this, it is rendering to element of layout. Means when I say /3000, it should give me to layout. And something with the index element, that index element should lead me to the home page. /blocks should lead me to blocks. /contact should lead me to contact. So on and so forth. Then we talked about React hooks, introduced in 16.8, allows functional components to have access to state and other React features, which pretty much allows us to not use class components anymore. You can use, they have not deprecated it, but it's not required that anymore since you have hooks. What is a hook? Allows us to hook features into React features such as state. You must import first and then you have to utilize it. So generally refers to the application data or properties that needs to be tracked. Hook has three rules. What are the three rules? First, hook can only be called inside functional components. Hook can only be called at top level components, and hook cannot be conditional. So if you put a condition inside a hook, that is going to be incorrect. Different kind of hooks include use state, use effect, use context, use reference, use memo, use callback, use reducer. Inside the React use state hook, what do we have? It allows to track state in a functional component, refers to the data properties that needs to be tracked in an application. Two steps. First, you have to import. This is the code for it. Second, you have to initialize. You have to understand it takes one parameter and returns two values. Initial value is the parameter. It returns two values, which is one current state and second function, which updates the state. Okay. We have seen the read calls where I'm not updating the state. I got the output here. Second, I have the write call where I'm actually updating the state also, and you can see the updated result as well. This is what we have completed in today's class. Everybody clear with this? Do let me know. Any doubt in today's session, let me know. If it is clear, type clear in the chat. Assignment I have given from my end. I'm surprised why I have not received yet. Even for your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React, you should have got the assignment by now. I'll connect with Abhishek. I'll see why you have not got it. In the meantime, you can ping. I think Astik is your course coordinator. You can ping him as well. But you should have got the assignments. What type of projects we'll be making? We'll be making 3 projects, including our Spotify clone, which includes very effective use of React classes. Second is Netflix clone, and third we'll be making a project, resume maker, basically. Okay, a personal portfolio website, whatever you call it. Cool guys. These we'll be making and we'll be hosting them on Netify or on GitHub or whatever. These projects, yeah, we are implementing from scratch. Everything will be implementing from scratch. Okay.